Well, welcome to the first ever Nice Business Podcast live stream with hosts me, Jim Bob Howard, veteran technical consultant and business and leadership consultant and visited CEO advisory chair, Richard Train. Together, we have more than 60 combined years of business experience. Our purpose is to have meaningful discussions about everyday issues facing the people and culture side of business and how owners and executives can be both kind and successful. Richard, tell us about tonight's topic.
Thanks, Jim Bob. I appreciate the intro and welcome everybody. Tonight's topic, why you're losing your best people and how to keep them. It didn't just come out of nowhere. In fact, along with my 30 plus years of experience and anecdotal evidence, I also have done a lot of research into recent studies, including actually a recent SHRM report, the Society for Human Resource Management, that came out earlier this year actually indicated that employee confidence in employer care has fallen to really over half of them are experiencing serious burnout, which is significant. And there's a need for better communication and better support. So when you couple that with, like I was saying, my years of experience in coaching and in managing both down, across, and up in organizations, both big and small, in both private and public sector, it matches. It matches the data that's out right now. And it comes down to the fact that the reasons for good employees to leave where they are include some time-tested and standard things that really haven't changed a whole lot, surprisingly. But those reasons also include things like no growth opportunities or few growth opportunities. Another big one is compensation is not competitive. Another big one is some of the best employees just simply aren't challenged enough. And the other side to that coin is sometimes those good employees are just simply overworked. Now, Jim Bob, I mean, you know that the good employees, they can handle a lot more of the work. So what do they get more?
Work.
A lot more work.
Exactly.
And so they get a lot of that work, and so it's no surprise that they get burned out. Other reasons why they tend to leave is, and now I'm going to say this in general terms, but unfavorable work environment. So really depends on the kind of work that you're doing. Are you in an office? Are you outside? There's a variety of things, but unfavorable work environment is a big leading reason why good people leave. And one of the big ones is bad culture / toxic people. And I kind of lump those together. Now, but those aren't the top three. The top three are really the big ones boil down to what I call ineffective management. Now, ineffective, that's a word that I'm carefully choosing because that really comes down to multiple kinds of ineffective management. You've got bosses who are weaklings, bosses who are tyrants, bosses who are micromanagers, bosses who are just flat out clueless. It does happen. And bosses who are just disengaged. Now, all of those, the results of those boil up to being ineffective. So ineffective management is one of the top three. It's really the biggest one. And then the other two are lack of clear direction and lack of recognition. And we're going to get into the baseline of those. I want to say when it comes to lack of clear direction, I don't know if anybody who's on the call has ever been in the military. Maybe put it in the chat if you have been. But if you have ever been in the military, if you don't know your mission, how do you think that that's going to go? So put a line or two about that in the chat. But lack of clear direction, if you don't know why you're here, then the rest of what you're doing, you don't know what you're doing, either at a team level or at a personal level. And you also won't know the how. How am I going to do what I need to do on a daily basis and how it relates back up to the overall why. We're going to get into that coming up.
So how can you tell if your company is plagued by any of those top three, whether it's the ineffective management, lack of clear direction, or the lack of recognition? What are some good indicators that those are the issues that you're dealing with?
That's a great question. You don't know if you have a problem until you can at least see what's going on. And let's just talk about ineffective management for a minute. If you're a leader and you have good people who are leaving and you don't know why, there might be a chance that you are the problem, or that you're being shielded from the problem by the person who is the problem. So if you've got ineffective management and you don't know what's going on, look at it this way, Jim Bob. If I'm your boss and you decide to leave and you don't tell me, what does that say about your level of respect for me?
Yeah, it's not very high, right? I didn't trust you enough with the information of why I was leaving.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And when you've got good people going like that, that's a pretty big indicator. So that's one thing that's going to be helping you to find out if that's an issue for you.
right.
Let's talk about the lack of clear direction, the lack of the why. So if you've got staff who are performing random, unrelated work, that's a pretty good indicator that they're not all pulling the oars in the same direction, right?
Hmm.
Um, if you have now another thing you can do is if you have that sense that something's going on, you can ask your employees, just pull somebody aside now, and you can ask your management to see what their answers are. I would actually say that you do both. You pull somebody aside, somebody that you know is probably going to be honest with you, and I would ask them one question, and that question would be, if you could summarize the primary goal for our company and one for your team, what would they be? And see what comes back. If you're getting a lot of random, different answers, you might have a difference in opinion of what the why is for your company.
Hmm.
Okay. Also, do you do exit interviews? If you're not, you should be. And what's coming back with those exit interviews? Now, I understand that a lot of people don't like to do exit interviews because what do you think comes back from exit interviews?
Negatives. All the things that are wrong, right?
Well, they're now granted, they're not going to hold back if they're
Right,
willing to give you an exit interview
right.
because, what do they have to lose? But at the same time, there is a kernel of truth, or at least their perception of the truth in what they're saying.
Hmm.
So remember, perception is reality at some level. So if their perception is right or if their perception is wrong, it is still their perception and
Right,
they're leaving. So you need to know that because if that good person is feeling that way, somebody else probably is too, right?
right. Hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
So now, and here's this last one is as far as lack of clear direction. This is something that's a little touchy. So I want you to take this with a grain of salt. So if you're listening in and you are a leader, you need to ask yourself how comfortable you are as a leader with setting and communicating the mission. If you are uncomfortable, that could be part of the of a telltale sign that there might be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you're uncomfortable, then somebody else is too. And I will tell you that I was, as you know, I'm a Vistage CEO peer advisory chair, and I
Hmm.
was in a Vistage meeting with a CEO, and she was very unsure about what her company mission statement was.
Mm.
She didn't know how to write it up, and so she needed the help of the group to be able to help define that. And I guarantee you that her people did not know.
Couldn't either, right?
Right, right. So that's a telltale sign. So let's talk about the lack of recognition. So think
Hmm.
about these. Uh, are you currently doing it right now? Are you currently giving recognition to your people? What's the frequency of it? Is it effective? If you're just sending out, certificates once a month to everybody saying, this is what everybody did well, and you check off a box, is that the most effective way of doing it? Are
Right.
you doing it publicly or privately? And is it genuine? Or are you just, like I said, checking that box? So those are some of the telltale signs that you might be somewhere in that top three for losing good people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are great. And when you think about the just understanding whether or not your organization is moving in the right direction, right? That's the whole
Mm-hmm.
point of the why. And you mentioned, if you've got people that are working, and they seem to be doing random things. We're talking about good employees here, so it's not like they're goofing off, right? They're
Right.
doing good work, but towards a wrong goal is really kind of what you're finding there, as far as that lack of why. And then as far as recognition goes, that's one of those things where, like, is it effective? Is it effective across your organization? Is it effective for all of the people in your organization? Because people
Right.
people look at those in different ways, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so given these things, what are things that you could do quickly, or like, let's talk about low-hanging fruit, or what's going to give us the most impact that we can actually see some changes soon, especially if we look at the fact. I mean, I would assume if folks are showing up for this talk, um, they may have already been losing some good people, and they feel like maybe they're
Absolutely.
hemorrhaging a bit, and so they're looking for some quick wins. So what can we do quickly, to start turning things around?
Well, let me just tell you that that's a fantastic question, and that's really why we're here, right?
Right.
So ultimately, I'm going to share something with you, especially when it comes to ineffective management, that I have helped to do in multiple organizations, and across my career, both in public sector places as well as private sector places, in organizations of all sizes, whether I was leading that organization or a part of that organization. This is the kind of thing now, and I have to say, I was raised in a family business where we implemented an entire total quality management approach.
Hmm.
And one of the most effective things that we ever did was essentially this. And if you're trying to get to the bottom of how to keep your good people and rectify that ineffective management feeling that your good people have before they leave, then here's what you're going to do. First of all, you're going to do two opportunity analysis meetings. Now, I specifically name it an opportunity analysis,
Hmm.
not an issue analysis, because issue is negative, right?
Right.
Opportunity is positive. So you're looking for opportunities for improvement, but you're looking for your teams to help to define that.
Mm.
And so you're going to create two opportunity analysis meetings, one for management and one for non management.
Okay.
And the non management team, this is the most important one of the two of them. Both of them are important, but the non management team is more important because ultimately you're trying to keep your good people, right?
Right.
And if those people are staff, then you need to make sure that they understand that they are being heard. Okay. But there's a
Mm.
way to do it right and there's a way to do it wrong. You don't want this to be a gripe session.
Right.
So what you're going to do is you're going to identify one, maybe two strong leaders within your staff. I don't know if
Mm.
you're in a large organization or a small organization, but if you're a leader, you know who those people are. They are the PTA presidents at their kids' school. They are the deacons of their church. They are, they're leading kids' little league baseball teams. It's any one of those people that have that natural leadership ability.
Right.
Now, if you don't have that person, you can look for others who can be strong in this particular role. The Venn diagram of introverts and extroverts. My son
Hmm.
calls himself an extroverted introvert.
Right.
Uh, but that overlap there. There's actually a name for it. It's an ambivert.
Hmm.
And somebody who is an ambivert or an extroverted introvert basically is the kind of person that is in that sweet spot where they are a good listener, they are a deep thinker, They don't necessarily talk all the time, unlike, me, because I'm an extrovert. But they are the kind of person that when they speak, it's meaningful. And
Right.
everybody knows that. Now, and this is the key here, because this is the kind of group that's going to get together. And do you want this person to direct the group and tell them everything that they're going to do? Or do
No,
you want them to facilitate?
facilitate for sure.
Right, right. I'd love to see in the chat people tell me uh, the difference between a facilitator and a director in a group like that, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So just go ahead and throw that in the chat. The facilitate, you're going to get this person to come in, and they're going to select a group of about 10 to 12 people. If you've got a small company and you don't have that many people that can do this, then you get whoever you can. But the important thing is you want to have that person select a cross section from the representation from all around your organization, as much as you can with 10 to
Hmm.
12 people. If it's a large organization, you just do the best you can to select. It cannot be your clique of friends.
No.
It cannot. It cannot be a manager in that group. They need to feel free to speak freely. And what happens in that room stays in that room except for the end result. And you want them to have differing views and hopefully from differing departments too.
Right.
Okay. So you're going to give these people two questions to solve. That's it. Or two mandates, questions, mandates, whatever you want to call it. And ultimately, you're going to tell them, I want you to go in and you're going to identify the top 5 management opportunities for improvement. So we know what you want. Okay. And you're going to rank them in order of importance. No generalities. So, Jim Bob, if I were to say, if I were in that group and I say, management needs to be nicer.
I can't measure that. I don't know. I don't know how to
Yeah.
do anything with that. Right.
Right, right. It's
Yeah.
you can't. So, how many people know what SMART methodology is? SMART. If you know, put it in the chat. But basically, SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound.
Mhm.
So, if you're going to make suggestions to management, you need to give them something that they can actually do. Okay, and you're going to give them these SMART methodology recommendations. Now, here's number 2. So first it's to identify, and then number 2, you're going to give them fair recommendations, solution recommendations for all of these. And then you're going to submit it to management. Okay, so that is the non-management group.
So back
Okay,
to your point about it's not a gripe session, right? It's
right.
not to just to say here are all the things you're doing wrong. Here are, and that's the reason why you couch it this way, right? So it's management opportunities for improvement.
Yes.
And what are the actual solutions? Like, not, again, not just be nicer, but what are the specific measurable things that they could possibly do? And then along with that, what do those solutions, maybe even what the outcome of that would be? But the idea there is that you're not just saying they're doing these things wrong. Here's what they need to do is the goal,
Right.
and actually
Exactly.
coming up with something that's actionable and constructive, right?
So
Solution.
would you like a real life example?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a company that I had some dealings with, and they were a large distribution company. They had offices and warehouse, and they were a little bit on the outskirts of the town.
Hmm.
And they had about 100 employees. And they had a lunchroom that did not, we did this exercise, and this lunchroom didn't have any, just some basic vending machines, candy machine and a soda machine. That was it.
Hmm.
And if they didn't bring their lunch, they didn't have anything else that they could really do unless they wanted to get in their car and drive into town, which took some time to get their lunch, took some time to get back, which would really put them up against the clock when it came to their lunch
Hmm.
shift. And one of the things that they came up with was we need some healthy options in vending machines in the lunchroom.
Right.
Well, that's an easy one. I
Yeah.
mean, there are so many vending machine companies out there that have all kinds, salads and all kinds of healthy options. And that was something that management could easily do, and they took care of it. But let's get back to the overall process. So the first one is
Hmm.
the non-management meeting, and they're going to do that first. The management meeting is pretty much the same. Managers are now here's the key. The owner or the CEO or the president, whatever the top person is, cannot be the one leading this.
Right.
Okay? Because what do you think
Because you
that
want
they're
them to
going to
speak freely. Right.
exactly?
Yeah.
So now with the management group, it's important that the top person goes into that meeting first and says, Sally here in the HR manager is phenomenal at facilitating meetings. And she is going to be the lead here, and she's going to facilitate this particular group.
Hmm.
I want you to feel completely free to speak your mind, because what happens in this room stays in this room. I'm never going to know who said what idea came from who, and uh, and that's what I want you to do. Just speak your mind
Hmm.
without fear or favor, and then leave. Let them do their thing, and they're going to come up with what they can. So they're going to have their five. The
Hmm.
non-management group are going to have their five, and then what do you think happens next?
Well, hopefully there's going to be some overlap between those two.
Perfect.
Right. Hopefully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's going to be some overlap. There almost always is.
Hmm.
You're just looking at it from two sides of the same coin,
Right.
right? So you're going to take a look at it and see where the overlap is. Now, remember, this is all ranked 1 through 5.
Right.
So what happens if, even with the overlap, you've got a couple of things at the bottom that are easy things that you can take care of tomorrow, like the vending machine thing?
Right.
Okay. It's not 1 through 3. So here's my question. Do you do the low hanging fruit, the easy things first, or do you wait and just do things in order of importance?
My thought is you want to do the low hanging fruit, like the bottom of the five, because to be honest, you're asking for the top five, right? So all of these are important to both of these groups. So just because it's at the bottom of this list doesn't mean it's at the bottom of the list, right? It's still in the
Exactly
top
right.
five, right?
So that's the right answer.
Yeah.
You get a gold star.
Oh, yay,
Um,
yay.
but basically, you knock off the things off the list. So what does that communicate to your team and to anybody who's thinking about leaving?
That you heard and that you were willing to change, do something about it.
Exactly. Now, here's
Yeah.
the thing. It is still incumbent upon you, absolutely imperative that you still get to everything. And here's what you're going to do. Uh, as management, you are going to make sure that you tell everybody um, what's going on, and you're going to recognize these two groups publicly.
Mm.
And you're going to say they came up with some fantastic ideas. We have 7 ideas of things that we are going to look into how we can fix. But the things that we can fix right now are this one and this one. And other ones we are looking into, and we will let you know by X date. You need to give a date that you're going to be letting them know what the next thing is on the list.
Right.
Now, you don't have to say what else was on the list, because guess what? It's going to go around.
Mhm.
They're all going to be talking about it.
Right.
And that's fine. You let them do it, but the management has to publicly recognize the efforts of both the groups and talk about when they're going to be done. Now, that's what you're going to do for ineffective management. You're showing
Right.
that you're not ineffective. You're showing that you're getting things done, and you're showing that you've heard them.
Right.
Okay. So that will help to take care of, or at least a little bit, the ineffective management. You may have the naysayers who are saying, well, yeah, they're going to do that today, but they're never going to fix X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
Okay. Give it some time. You
Yeah.
keep working on it. Okay. Let's talk about the lack of direction, the why. Okay. Uh, Guess what you have, Jim Bob? You have a built-in management, non-management focus group to help figure out
Right.
your why.
Yeah.
Now let's just say that you don't want to necessarily lock people in a forever group if they don't
Right.
necessarily want to do that. They did their time, that's fine. You can let them off the hook. If and you can always reconstitute a new group because guess what? You have the framework.
Right.
You know what works. And you're going to get other people who are leaders or ambiverts or people who can step into that role,
Hmm.
take their turn, give people the opportunity to make some real change within the organization.
Right.
All right. So you're spreading it around, which also helps to reinforce that maybe management is not necessarily ineffective.
Right.
Okay. So that's one. Now, here's the thing. When you're coming up with your why, now we remember the 90s and the 80s pretty well. I'm kind of
We
old.
do.
And
Yeah.
and we remember the times when people were coming up with mission statements, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, those mission statements, those whys, were just complete and total hogwash and
Yeah.
loaded with jargon. And
Jargon.
you know
Right.
me, I'm a simple guy, and I think simpler is always better.
Yeah.
So you're going to make these things jargon free. You're going to make them short, and they have to be high level enough that we as a company know that it's going to be here. This is what we are doing. This is why we are
Hmm.
here. And it cannot be something like we're here to make money. Because in my very technical business terminology, my response to that would be duh. You don't want to do that. So
Right.
you need to make it specific. I mean, I have in my on my whiteboard right across from me that what I do as a coach, my why is I engage leaders to work together in support of mutual learning and growth.
Right.
Period. And everything that I do has to go towards that goal.
Right.
That's my why.
And I think that's important too. The fact that you have it on the wall is something that you remember. I, I remember in 80s and 90s too when we would do the mission, vision, and values,
Right.
workshops and things. We take 6 months to come up with these things, and we work on the mission, you work on the vision, you work on the values, and you get all of that put together, and then you put it into a document that gets sent out, or maybe you do put it on the wall. But the point is that it needs to be something that isn't just put on the wall once. It
Hmm.
needs to be communicated on a regular basis,
Absolutely.
so that everybody, ideal solution is, or ideal situation is that you can stop anybody in the hallway and ask them what's our mission, right? And they
Right.
can communicate it in a way that they understand as well too. And that kind of goes back to the no jargon within it. It's got to be real. It's got to have legs. It's got to have feet. It's got to actually be something that can be walked out day to day.
Absolutely. And remember managers need to be sharing with us this in all hands meetings. And if you don't do all hands meetings, you should.
Right.
Now, you shouldn't do it just to have it. There needs to be a good, valid reason for it. Otherwise, it could have been an email, right?
Right.
But when you do that, you need to share that, and managers need to share this down at the team levels.
Hmm.
So we know that our team. Now, look, I was never in the military, but if
Right.
anybody on the call was ever in the military, or anybody listening to this later on was ever in the military, you know that you need to understand the mission,
Yeah.
and everything you do has to flow back up to what the overall mission is. I was a federal employee for a long time, and we knew the mission.
Right.
Everything we did went toward that mission.
Hmm.
So managers need to share that with the teams, and really importantly, onboarding.
Right.
So when you're bringing in new people, you need to understand that. This brings me back to the old story about the janitor at NASA back
No.
during the Apollo days. Did I didn't tell you about this?
No, I don't think you have.
It's an old story, and I like old stories. And there was a senator, I believe, that was touring NASA in the days of Apollo, and they were talking with lots of different people, and he saw a janitor mopping the floor.
Hmm.
And he said, "How do you like your job?" He said, "I love it." He says, "What do you do here?" He says, "I'm helping put a man on the moon."
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
he knew the mission
exactly. Yeah.
because what he did was important, uh, in its own way.
Hmm.
So everybody needs to understand the mission. Anyway, that's the why. Let's talk about the what to do about the lack of recognition. All right.
Okay.
You have to understand that no two people on your teams are alike.
That's true.
All right. I know logically everybody knows that, but if you're doing the same thing for everybody for recognition, you got to know that it's not working for everybody.
Right.
Maybe people are leaving because they're not getting recognized in the way that they need.
Hmm.
Now, you work with IT people. I've
Right.
worked with a lot of IT people,
Yeah.
and I will tell you that they're not always the most communicative people.
Sure.
But I can tell you that if you had a conversation, if you are my head of IT or something like that, or maybe
Hmm.
you're a team lead or something, and I'm the CEO of the company, and I knew that you wrote some code that revolutionized the way we did order processing.
Hmm.
If I see you in the hallway and I say, Jim Bob, I got to tell you, that piece of code that you wrote, I don't know what you did, but it was magical. It sped up everything that we do with order processing. Everybody in customer service loves it,
Right.
and everybody's very happy. I cannot thank you enough. That's amazing. That may be all the recognition you need.
Sure.
And as a leader, you got to know that, or at least your managers underneath you need to know that. And if they're not doing it, then maybe you need to get them some help to learn how to do that, because this can all be taught
Hmm.
with the right support. I don't know if you use coaches, but we'll talk about that. But but this can all be taught, and that's the kind of thing you need to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think your point about IT folks, right? And that's who I know. So I'm sure that there are other groups of people that
Right.
the folks on the call uh can can relate this to other things. Most people who are in IT, they they don't need necessarily the public recognition, right? The
Hmm.
private recognition a lot of times is good enough for them, or at least if it is public, it's like public within a team among their peers who recognize, yeah, that was some good code you wrote there, right? That was really streamlined. That was fantastic. But there are other types of recognition, right? I mean, we can talk about money. Obviously, that's a way that we could talk
Of
about,
course. which
things.
which is always great for sales teams.
Always great for sales teams, but it's good for your engineers as well too. It's just that
Sure.
that that's not that's not public, right? Because
Right.
hopefully they're not sharing their salaries, but they do, maybe they get a bonus, maybe they get a raise, whatever, those types of things. But
Hmm.
other types of recognition, sometimes it's just being able to tell someone, I really appreciate the fact that you're here. Like, we would not have won that project, completed that project, done whatever we did if you weren't part of the team. That
Right.
type of recognition is I would say, across the board, is nice to hear
Hmm.
on a regular basis. But again, some people like to stand up and give a speech, and some don't. And understanding who your people are and exactly how they receive that recognition, I think is key as well too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there is one kind of recognition that's different than awards
Yeah.
that you and I had the opportunity to have a fantastic conversation
Yes.
recently in an
Hmm.
interview for one of our podcast episodes
Yeah.
with a guy by the name of Jason Bronstad with MALK
Yeah.
Organics. Basically, they they produce plant-based milk products
Hmm.
that sold through Whole Foods markets all over the country.
Right.
And he took over uh, at, at 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 an interesting time in their company, and he started doing something that I thought was absolutely fantastic called a
Me too.
dream conversation. And
Yes.
I think you tell it better than me. So why don't you share Why don't you share about that, what that did?
Yeah, and the folks here can go back and listen to that podcast. It was phenomenal, I thought. Is Here's what he did. He got together all of his team, and it's not a very large team at this time, so he's grown it since then. But when he first came in, it was fairly small enough that he could do this. But I think this could be done with segments of your organization. But what he did is he got them together to have a dreams conversation to understand what were the dreams and aspirations of the people that he worked with. Now, some of those were professional. Some of them wanted to get a promotion, or they wanted to learn something, or they wanted to go, get their MBA so that they could do something
Right.
else within the organization. Others, it was much more personal. I remember one of the stories that Jason shared was there was a mom who was her dream was to get her son to a professional sports game with his favorite player, and it was a few hours drive type of thing. The tickets were expensive or anything, but she was working towards that. And when she got to the point where she was able to do it, they got together and they said, "Hey, let's make this a little nicer for them. Let's put them in a nice restaurant. Let's give them a nice dinner. Let's see what other things we can add to it." But
Yeah.
but the bigger part of it was just being able to recognize and support that dream, and in addition to all, and the other example that I thought was really good too, they found that one of the people that was on their team really wanted to be a professional artist, and
Right.
so they commissioned the person on the team who art was not their job at MALK, but they commissioned them to create three pieces of art that actually hang in the offices. So those types of dreams that you can kind of help people achieve, or even if you're not helping them achieve it, you're there to celebrate them and cheer them on as they're doing it, and share it when they do reach those dreams. They even have I believe it's a Slack channel that's called Dreams Wins, and so on a
Right.
regular basis, people come in and say, "Hey, I was working towards this dream and I achieved it," or I've made another step towards that dream, and those types of things. And to me, I felt that was phenomenal, because here's the thing: it's not about the dreams, it's about the people. It's
Right.
about the fact that you recognize that your people have hopes and dreams that may be bigger than your organization. They may be a big part of your organization, but by helping them do that, they're also wanting to help MALK achieve what it's trying to do as well too.
Right. And they want to do more than just come to a job and trade their time for money.
Exactly.
They want to feel that what they're doing has a purpose. And and
Yes.
and and that was a beautiful way that
I
happened. And I
loved it.
and I do love artists too.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
yep. So that was wonderful.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we've covered these things, and let's just kind of go back to what these big three were. So first was the ineffective management.
Right.
The next two were a lack of understanding of what the why was, or a lack of communication of what the why was, and lack of recognition. Now,
Right.
it's quite possible, I think, that when you do your opportunity meetings, and when you do that with your two teams, the lack of recognition and the lack of why are probably going to show up on that list.
Right.
But I think it's important that we call them out here too, because these are sometimes really obvious within an organization that people aren't getting these things. And sometimes it's not so obvious, which is the reason why we want to call them out here, is that if these don't show up in your top five, they still should be as part of your top five.
Right.
So there's a lot here that we've talked about. So let's talk about how long will it take to fix some of these things.
You know my two favorite words when it comes to business?
What's that?
It depends.
Right. Yes, of course.
So it depends. I mean, there are going to be a lot of factors riding on this.
Yeah.
Uh, a management team, especially the owner or CEO or president, needs to practice what I call the three H's. They need to be hungry,
Hmm.
humble, and honest. And let me talk about that for a second. Hungry, they have to want to change.
Right.
Because if you don't want to change, it doesn't matter how many focus groups you have and all that. If you're not going to do it, nothing's going to change. But
True.
you have to be the catalyst for the change. You have to be
Hmm.
hungry to change. Humble. Now this is big. You have to be willing to accept the feedback that comes back, even if you don't like it.
Hmm.
You have to accept it without defensiveness.
Yeah.
That's huge. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
honest. this got to this place in some part due to you. So
Right.
if you had a toxic manager working for you
Mm,
whose entire team was completely messed up because of that particular manager, yes, you could say, hey, that was the manager, that wasn't me. You have to still accept your part in it.
mm,
You're running the company. So you have to be willing to admit your part in it to be able to make a change, right?
right.
So that's what you have to do. First of all, you have to practice your three H's.
Hmm.
Now, also what could affect the timeline here is how big are the issues? I
Right.
mean, do you have to replace a manager? Like
Mm,
in that last example, that could take some time,
yeah, that'll take time.
right? What's the cost? What is the cost of replacing a high level person or
Hmm.
even a top performer?
Right.
It's all going to cost. Maybe you don't have the budget for it. So you may have to limp along a little bit. But now that you know what you know, you can do some things now
Mm,
to mitigate that, right? So,
right.
it will help. It will hopefully get a little bit better. But at some point, you may have to take those big steps. So,
Right.
how big are the issues, right? Also, how effective, and this is kind of big, how effective are your focus group leaders?
Hmm.
Okay. It's possible that your focus group leader may not be a great facilitator and
Right.
instead was kind of dominating the conversation.
Mm,
And maybe what they came up with wasn't really so great. And the rest of your staff thought about it and just, it wasn't, it's not going to move the needle for me. I still may leave. Okay.
right.
Well, here's the problem. You can't just say, well, that group was bad. We're going to dissolve it and put another one in. That's going to look like you're putting your finger on the scale.
Yeah.
So you have to be cautious with that.
Yeah.
So make sure that if you're going to do that, if you have ineffective managers, chances are they're still going to be coming up with some little pearls of wisdom,
Right.
even if it's not great. And guess what? You can make sure that your groups are just one-time groups,
Mm,
and we're going to get new blood in there and do it again.
right.
And maybe they'll come. This next group will come up with more stuff that's a little bit better.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a learning process, and if you've never done this in your organization before, it's like working out.
It's going to take a bit longer.
You need to get that muscle memory going. Okay,
Yeah. And I,
and then
and
and
I,
then and then one. Yes, go
oh, go
ahead.
ahead. Well, no, I was just going to say, as far as the time goes. So, I mean, I asked the question, how long is it going to take? And obviously, we all would like to get the quick fix. And the
Hmm.
truth is, there are some things like the vending machine example. Those types of things, are low hanging fruit and are quick fixes that you can do, but that's not going to completely right the ship. And so one thing to think about when you think about, well, how long is it going to take or how much is it going to cost and what's it going to look like to restructure my team if I need to
Right.
along those ways. um, you've got to look at the flip side of that and say, well, yes, it may cost, it may take time, it may be painful, but what's the cost if I don't do it, right? And so you kind of measure those two together and realize that yes, it's going to take some time, it's going to take
Yep.
some money, right? But in the long run, it's going to be better for your organization. So you're not just driving it into the ground by not addressing these things.
Exactly.
And I think that's key, right? Is that as that CEO or that owner, understanding when change needs to happen,
Hmm.
that it's not always going to be easy.
Yeah, and ultimately, I mean, the CEO or owner, you need to also kind of back to what an earlier point. How willing are you to change as well?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The slowness can't be because you're dragging your feet.
exactly.
The slowness is because the process takes time, but
I
you're
mean,
willing to change.
I know somebody who works for a pretty large company, who's head of a pretty large and very important department,
Hmm.
and said that well, we have coaches, and there's a real high dollar. coach and um, coming in to work with the organization, but nothing really ever changes because the ownership is just not going to change. They're not
Yeah.
interested in changing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So, okay, so we've talked about the big three. We've talked about things we can do. We've talked about how long that's going to do. But let's talk about what that I guess that internal analysis, really needs to look like and how hard that is to pull off for an organization, for a management team, for an executive team, for the CEO owner themselves. How hard is this going to be?
well, I mean, I hate to say this, but it also depends. It depends on you. It depends on your
Yeah,
personnel. Depends on the level of dysfunction that's
right.
driving good people away. So it's very difficult to tell. But I will tell you, so it comes down to two basic questions. Is your organization uncomfortable in implementing or comfortable in implementing? So let's talk about if they're uncomfortable, I would tell them that there are three things that they can do. And they sound simple, but they're not.
Hmm. Yeah,
They should either consider hiring a leadership or culture coach, whether it's
right.
me or some other person like me. You need to hire a coach, an outside set of professional eyes that
Mm,
could come in and really give you a once over and figure out what's going on.
right,
A leadership and culture coach. Now, remember, business issues boil down to either a math problem or a drama problem. And we're
right.
largely talking, when people are leaving, you're usually talking about drama problems.
That's true.
All right. So you need a leadership and culture type of a coach. Okay.
Hmm.
So either that or absolutely, like I said, I'm a Vistage CEO peer group chair. There are groups like Vistage, but really only one Vistage. But find yourself a great peer group.
Right.
And I'm not talking about a networking group where you're trading business cards and trying to get leads. That's
Right.
not what I'm talking about.
No, no, no.
I'm talking about a group that can help you sort through your particular issues at the same level that where you are in your organization. So a
Yeah.
CEO group, a head person group, a small business owner group. There are lots of those out there. I happen to think Vistage is the best at it, but you need to find yourself a group that does that, and not a large one, a small group. It's like building a team
Mm,
that has your back. Preferably people who are not in your same industry. You want to be able to air things without fear of your competitors getting a hold of it.
right.
So that's number two.
So real quick though, you said
Sure.
not a large group, but so how big? I mean, what's too small? What's too large? What's a good size for that type of peer group?
I find that anything from 8 to 16
Okay.
is perfect. Too much more than that gets a little unwieldy. Too much less than that, you tend to not have enough voices
Mm,
with experience levels to be able to help provide you a well-rounded sense of things.
right.
So that's what I'm talking about. Eight
Hmm.
to 16 is a good size.
Gotcha.
So, and then number three, if you don't like either of those other two options, find a mentor, and
Hmm.
preferably somebody who knows your business. Maybe it's a
Right.
family member, but somebody who's not directly in it.
Right.
And those are the three things that I would say to do if you are uncomfortable in implementing any of the prior discussion. Okay.
Yeah.
If you are comfortable in implementing, that's great. You know what to do now. And in fact, you could be somebody that we want to talk to for
Yeah.
an up because that's exactly the subject matter that we talk about in our podcast of how did you do things the right way
Right.
with the culture in your organization. So maybe we want to talk to you
Yeah.
on
If you're comfortable making these changes, give us a call because we'd
right.
love to have you on the podcast for sure.
Exactly.
Good.
And that's it.
That's great. So I know, we've still got some time left. We've got some folks that are on the call. I'd love to see if we could maybe field some questions, maybe even hear some anecdotes. If you are someone who is comfortable with some of these things, or you've implemented some of these and would like to kind of share that, we'd love to hear it. So I just want to open up the Q&A for anyone that'd like to either come off mute or type something in the chat. We'd be happy to kind of walk through things that way.
And Jim Bob, why don't you also display the contact information if they want to
Yes,
come back afterwards and talk at some other point?
absolutely. Well, that wraps it up. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us and taking part in this live version of the Nice Business Podcast. That's right. This is a podcast that you can also find as well. This was the first time we were doing it live, and we're going to do more of these as well. We'd like to have some interaction on those in the future. So I'd love to have you join us there. And again, if you're comfortable implementing some of these things, you've done some of the things we're talking about, we'd love to talk with you on the podcast as well too. If you
Great.
want to learn more about how to keep your business nice, keep tuning in for more fantastic information and reach out directly to Richard Train of Richard L. Train Consulting.
Thanks, everybody.